That's right. Chris Umiastowski. Umiastowski, thank you. I even said that the second time.
Very close.
Very close. Anyway, Chris and I, we were just talking about lunch.
Yes.
And apparently we did the NLP practitioners like a good
7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yep.
What's that?
So yeah, that's what we had when you
2004.
was first there. So it was known Chris for quite some time. So
Long time.
Chris, over to you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm excited to be here, guys. Linda emailed me while I was in France this summer and asked me to present, and I really couldn't say no because the season's pretty much over. My presentation is called Hope and Action, because I think if you're going to connect in a business standpoint, you're going to connect hope to something, well, what better thing to connect it to than action? What did you do? Battery, thank you, because my battery's brutal. So, I called it From Career to Entrepreneur with this book. That's the path I took. I mean, everyone's going to have their path and how they deploy hope and turn it into action, okay? But for me, it's career to entrepreneur. Email address will repeat at the end. Find a site, right? Okay. So me in a nutshell, who am I? I grew up thinking, gonna do my education, gonna get a job, and have a career, right? I'm sure pretty much all of us grew up that way, unless we had a mom or a dad who was an entrepreneur. We somehow got influenced to drive right into the entrepreneur mindset. I think there's so many of us here who are entrepreneurs that you can probably relate to this way of thinking. I guess I should start closer. Yeah. Okay, so I realized entrepreneur, I already said that, and I happen to be risk averse. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to go and blow my credit card spending limit or mortgage my house to build a business and risk my family, being fed. So I tend to be the risk averse approach, and that's what I've taken in my life. That said, I'm also the guy, unrelated to Lilo, who tends to talk a lot and won't shut up, so that's maybe a little traffic there. So you get to know me pretty well because I talk a lot. Career transitions that I went through. First, I started as an engineer. Worked in Ottawa for JDS, Vitel, back when they had just gone public, fiber optics industry. Moved on to Nortel. And after being in the engineering field for about 5 years, I migrated over to Toronto, which I've been here ever since, as a financial analyst working on Bay Street. So, big job, big hours, wear a suit and tie, all that fun stuff. And I did that for just over 10 years. Until I took a mini retirement this summer and spent 10 weeks in the south of France with my family, which was life-changing. Do something like this at some point in your life, okay? Yes, it will cost you money. Yes, it will scare the pants off of your spouse if you quit your job. But it is life-changing. I can definitely attest to that. And Tim Ferriss, before our work week, had a big impact on me personally. And then when I came back, now I'm functioning as a consultant, an online marketer. Essentially, I don't want to have a boss. I want to work for me. And anyone else in the room feel the same kind of way, that they don't want to work for someone else? I can count a lot of hands. So you don't have your hand up, it means you really enjoy working for someone else. I hope you're enjoying what you're doing. And if you're not, go find something else where you're working for a boss that you do enjoy. So let's talk about hope, because I didn't have a definition for hope, and I was on the beach with my wife in France and talking about this, and we didn't come up with a good definition. So we turned to the good old interweb. Because everything there is true, right? So I found Wikipedia. When I typed in what is the definition of hope, I think Wikipedia was #1. That means they're more right than everyone else. Hope is I don't read slides, but I'll make an exception. Hope is the emotional state which promotes the belief in a positive outcome related to events and circumstances in one's life. So hope is an emotion. It's pretty interesting. It's a thing, whatever. It's an emotion. Hope is belief. That's all it is, right? Thanks to Wikipedia. So, let's not sugarcoat it. Hope doesn't do a damn thing on its own. It's like a battery that sits in the drawer. Unless you plug it into the remote control, it don't work. Okay? Now let's do the NLP perspective. Hope is a resource. We all heard about resources. Resources are things that you draw from your past, things that you've learned in the past that you can bring into the future and use. Well, if you have hope, you have resources. You still don't have action yet, of course. So it inspires action, but it doesn't do action, okay? Resources are potential. So back to the battery example. A waterfall, water falling down on a big height, it doesn't accomplish much unless you put a turbine there and generate electricity. Hello, Niagara Falls, okay? So it's potential, and without action, then you know. What is it not? This is kind of fun. My favorite slides. It's not, I hope this lotto ticket thing So I have a name for hope like this. Drum roll, please. Flaccid hope. You got it, but you can't use it. Okay. Hope you appreciate that. Al, I'm not looking at you when I say that.
You're the one we're with, buddy.
Everyone knows that I'm dressed to match my slides very good, so. So, talk about career transitions briefly. Moving to Bay Street. I did that in the year 2000. I made my first big career transition moving to Bay Street. Well, let's bring it here. I hoped I could find a job in Toronto, right? I haven't done it before. But I didn't just rely on hope. I had to be obsessed with mastering a sellable skill set, which is, in the case of me, was technology investing advice. What stocks to buy and what stocks to sell. I had to master at least the perception that I knew what the heck I was doing down there, right? Because I'm supposed to be a professional, wear a suit and tie and all. I also hoped that I would, forge with client relationships and become well known in my field. But the point is, I couldn't just sit there and hope to achieve it. I had to take some pretty massive action to get really good at this stuff. And luckily, it all worked out, right? Because I put a lot of work into it. And I'm not trying to, tell you that you got to be like me and take action. It's apply the action in a way that works for you, but you have to rely on yourself to do it. 4-Hour Workweek, a book that I read was written by Tim Ferriss. Anyone read the book? I was going to hold it up so I can throw it at you if you haven't read it. Thankfully, so many of you have. Fantastic book, life-changing, 4-Hour Workweek. Tim Ferriss is written down there. Write it down if you haven't got this thing. Read it, Suzanne. I'm looking at you. I read it in 2007. Another NLP practitioner actually gave me a copy of it and said, read this. The title didn't grab me, but it really was life-changing in terms of how it affected me. So I took action. So I really like this idea of not trading the time for money in a day job. And I started a website selling an audio course for parents. I did it under a pen name because if you Google Umiastowski, you're getting all this Bay Street technology stuff, and it's not going to make any sense to me. But I decided that's what I wanted to do. I hoped things like passive income were possible, but I spent years, literally years, I'm still learning, everyone's still learning. I had to learn how to make a website, how to edit audio, how to do email autoresponders, how to split test, how to split test a website, all this mumbo jumbo, video marketing this, etc. There's a lot of stuff to learn, and you got to be willing to do the work to learn what you need to do to take the steps. And I need action. So hope was what I wanted. Action was what I have to do to get there. There we go. Okay, so hence the mini retirement. When I read the book, I remember vividly getting off the subway one night on the way back from work, and I was going to my daughter's soccer practice. She was like 3 years old, so it's called sport, it's not soccer. And saying to my wife, let's go do something bold. Let's go live in Europe for a year. And anyway, long story short, we ended up doing 10 weeks in the south of France instead of a year, but it was still awesome and life-changing. And, I had to leave my job to do it. I had to be willing to make that step, right? That was something I decided long in advance, and I had to plan for it. I already said that. You can see how many times I'm running through these slides. Now, the hope. I hope they didn't have to come back on a job. That would be a getting defeat, right? Well, I didn't just hope it. I worked hard for years to establish my plan before I left the job, right? So you have to know what you want, take the action, set yourself up so that you can achieve what you want. So current stuff, I run a few online businesses. One of them is mikemandelhypnosis.com. Probably a lot of you visited that one. Another one is talkingtotoddlers.com, which is the parenting course that I talked about. And I also still do consulting as part of the Umiastowski persona in the tech industry for tech companies. So that results in not having one boss. It's multiple streams of income. If you get fired from one business, if one of them goes downhill, you're not screwed, right? And that's the whole idea for me about being an entrepreneur, is not just being tied to one client, not being tied to one business model, or not being tied to one paycheck, whatever it is. Okay, and I think that to me is a de-risking exercise. Now it's a lot less income, but if you ask me if I'm happier, do you sense my congruence, Ron? Yes. So what else do I hope for? I hope for growth. How many do you have time, by the way?
Okay.
Good. Okay. So I hope for growth. Well, I don't just hope for growth. Like, I hope you get the idea here. I don't just hope and then stop. I hope for growth, but I know exactly what I need to do to get that growth. And, cross my fingers, I still have the motivation to keep going and do it. Yeah, execute on my plan and achieve that growth. So, a couple of concluding remarks. Probably not going to surprise any of you. But I want you to take action on this. So write something down. Define what the heck do you want. outcomes in mind. Now, Linda said it best right at the beginning of the day. You know, we come in here with an outcome in mind. If you don't have an outcome, well, why are you here, right? So if you don't have an outcome, figure out some outcome that you want, write it down. Just write it down. No, you don't know what you want. Well. Okay, number 2, believe strongly in your ability to get it. That's the hope, right there. Know what you want, hope you can achieve it, but pick something you can control, not that you're going to win the lottery. Okay? So what I want you to do is not only write down what you want, but I want you to think about, okay, can I really do this? And if it's totally unrealistic, we talked about realism in earlier presentations, pick something else, okay? And then the next thing is unlock your potential, those batteries in the drawer, use them. Turn them into action. So figure out what is it you can do, what one thing, and I learned this from taking courses at LB Canada. Leave this room with one action you can take right now. Even better, do that action right now. After my presentation is over, maybe you make an appointment or send an email to somebody or whatever it is. But figure out what it is you're going to do to get going in that direction. Because if you never get started, you'll never finish.